going. Sorry for the little bit of confusion. We're going to talk today about light. We're going to talk today about spiral learning, about light being a spiral. What does it mean when you know that you are the light of the world? Do you think Jesus just said that because he wanted to say something? There is a scientific reality behind so much of what God reveals to us and in us and through us. And it is meant to expand our knowledge of who God is through science, syncing with our spirituality. And that is one of the reasons that quantum is so incredible. As I said before, it could be because you're not learning these things in other places. So God's just birthing God through science to show you the reality of who you are, how you navigate in this universe, how you're light in this universe. And when you rise in consciousness, you actually rise in the sense of you rise in light. Okay, so you rise in light when you rise in consciousness. So let's get started. Now, let me give you some science lessons. I hope you ask some questions. I'll look back and look at the questions. I think this topic is so full of energy. I needed to almost calm down before I actually started teaching this, because this is such an incredibly awesome topic, so wide, so deep, so vast, as the love of God is, because God is light, God is love. So light is a spiraling wave of energy. So picture that in your mind right now. It's like a spiral. So you're standing at the bottom of a spiral staircase, and the only way to go up is to go around and to go around and to go around, because rarely does life take us on a trajectory where it's from point A to point B. Usually it takes us through valleys, up mountains, through deserts, by oceans, and we're meandering our way through life that it looks more like lines of zigzag going all over, rather than going from point A to point B, which is an illusion. Because in order to ascend in consciousness, which means to increase in light, which means your energy signature is more pronounced, which means that happens to receive increased intuition, increased revelation. Your trajectory in life changes because suddenly you're learning how to live in the world and not of the world. You're moving in spirit. You find great satisfaction in life, no matter where you find yourself, because remember, in a spiral mode of light, you're passing certain points over and over. That is not a bad thing. When I look back at my life, I'm not going from new thing to new thing to new thing. I already am a new creation. And in being a new creation, and that word means never before seen, it means unprecedented. When I come to that reality that I am light and I am a new creation, there is an unfolding in that reality, which means I just don't shoot to point A. It is a rising in consciousness, learning new things as they unfold within us. So it is a journey. So light is a spiral wave of energy. And they're called vortices, which means they're like little spirals that are throughout the whole cosmos. The book that I've read twice, a woman named Gloria Prema, she looks at light from a physical point of view, from a physics point of view, philosophical, spiritual, and she believes light makes up the whole cosmos, which to me makes perfect sense. God is light, God is love, and God breathes out light when he creates. So it's the combination of the sound of God's voice, moving in the resonance and the frequency of God's voice to create anything, even you. So as God creates you and breathes light and breathes frequency into your life, that's why God is able to say, I knew you before you were formed. I saw this individuated consciousness, this energy. I embedded myself within this individual so that we can go on a journey to learn who you are and to co-create with me. It's never about downloading a script. It's never about looking upwards for God to just lead you. No, this is a co-partnership. This is consciousness within consciousness. This is light within light. And it is a journey of discovery and beauty where you should, in your daily lives, at some level, be in awe and wonder of even the most ordinary things, because that's the beauty of your incarnation. So these tiny vortices of energy, light is throughout the whole cosmos. So we could say the essence of the cosmos is God, is consciousness, is energy. You can use those terms simultaneously. You can say God created the quantum field, embedded himself in the field, accessing that through your Christ mind, through Christ in you, the hope of glory. So God is in the essence of this consciousness when we're talking about this. So everything is light. That's what our book says. It says it's all light. Now, we think we understand that until we really have to see and change our paradigm of how we see things. So God is before all things, and God manifests in all things. And to manifest, and it says in Colossians, it says, in God, all things consist. That word consist means to unite all parts into one whole. So there is no fragmentation. God reveals God through union and inclusion. It's religion and it's culture that shows a dualistic God. Even science has shown a dualistic God, of a God out there. But God reveals himself through the oneness and the union of the cosmos in an individuated consciousness in which you find yourself. So God's wonderful purpose through the Christ mind is to bring you a unity within yourself, to see that you are whole without any fragmentation and without any division. And your life is a journey of remembering that you are whole. And even though we're going through things, even though we struggle, remember the spiral reality as we learn in a spiral way, which I'll get into in just a few minutes. We're going around the same things. And what those things are doing is that we're able to look at our pain in light of our wholeness, because we don't avoid it. We look at our joy in the light of our wholeness. We look at our peace in the light of our wholeness. We look at our sorrow in the light of our wholeness. We look at our things we don't understand, the paradoxes of life in the light of our wholeness. And even though things may not make sense, the purpose of an arising in consciousness on a spiral journey as light increases within you is not so much to arrive at a destination. It's not to get somewhere where you finally have everything all figured out. I think religion does that. I also think many of us function in that realm where we want to come to the conclusion of things. That is not life. Life is the spiral rise in consciousness where we recognize that in our incarnation, we experience all those things. And it is Jesus as this pattern son himself that went through all those things, the sorrows, the sadness, the joy. And he focused on just living life to give us a revelation that he and the Father are one. We and the Father are one. So in this vortice of life, in this energy of light that God is love, she says in this book that is a combination of physics, and I've read this from other theoretical physicists, that God being God will breathe out light. If we look at what it says in Let There Be, this is the substance of the singularity of God breathing out light in the combination of the frequency of sound. That is quantum. If you look at that very carefully, you see that matter is formed, because if it is not formed, light will just stay energy. It will just stay energy and it will not localize. So when God breathed out these particles of light, they began to form and take substance because of the frequency of the sound. And to this day, they have discovered, I think it's so many octaves below middle C, that black holes are still reverberating in this sound. Even people that do not even acknowledge God will say that there is an intelligent mind breathing out from primordial space, holding things together, breathing out still a frequency. And as we've spoken in past Facebook Lives, in that dark matter, in that energy, there is a constant motion. So not only are you formed, not only is creation formed by the substance of the light and the breathing light and the breathing sound, you are maintained and sustained by that constant sound. And when that sound shifts or changes, you will shed this earthly incarnation and go back into consciousness. Ask anyone who has gone through a near-death experience. When you shed this earthly form, you don't disappear, you don't dissolve, you shed a form. And as we've talked about so many times before, theoretical principles show that what emanates out from the field, I could say it, what emanates from God is pulled back into God when this earthly life is done. You are immortal. So an increase in light on this planet right now is to not only change you, to change the atmosphere, and to change everybody you come into contact with. So there is no separation or division in this forming. Okay, so you, if I would say you're a lower energy or less energy, you are still light and sound. You've just changed form. You're at a dense energy, maybe not remembering where you came from. According, like Jeremiah says, I knew you before I formed you. Psalm 139 says, I knew the intricate details of your substance. So before you were formed, you were known. You were known before you were formed in an individuated consciousness. And when you come into this dense energy, you are still fully as you were. You've only changed form. I want you to understand that. You are not a lesser entity because you are now in a body in a dense matter. You are just having to remember, which calls for a rise in consciousness, because we have simply forgot. That is the essence of why Jesus said, you live in the world, but not of the world, because we forget all these things. So I am light, you are light. And these spiraling light waves within the resonance of the breath of God create me. God creates the I am in me. So if I rise in a spiral way, because you see, as light forms matter, as you shed a lot of this earthly awareness and you rise up into a, however you want to say it, a God consciousness, an eternality, a revelation of immortality, you are going to access things out of the realm of this speed of light. So Einstein said light moves at what, 186,000 miles per second? That's in the earthly realm. That does not apply in higher realms, because it's being shown that there is an increase almost when you're out of this realm, past, present, and future fuse together, and light is just abundant and moving. And that is what, to be in the world, that's how we access prophetic revelation, intuition, telepathy, clairvoyance. It is connecting with the field, and it is not only Christians that do that. It is not only Christians that see that truth, because there is a Christ mind that Christians are not the only people that have. Christ mind is the universal consciousness, because there is no separation in God. God does not give to one and then not the other. So when you access greater realities of light, you are rising above the earthly realm. Didn't Colossians say we set our mind on things above, not on that which is the earth? It isn't to go to conferences and to give out a few prophetic words. That's not it, folks. To set our mind means my Christ mind flows in the reality of increased light that I access through the quantum field, through God, and that as God breathes on that, the matter that is formed from my life through my intuition is the way that I walk, the way that I live, the way that I have my being. This is life. This is just not sometimes. There's no separation here. This is life moved out in light. So these spiraling light waves, I am now light, and I am the breath of God in a dense matter. So when I want to learn, it would only make sense that the way that I would learn would not be a time-based learning mechanism. I'm not going to learn line upon line, precept upon precept. I'm going to learn by a rise in consciousness, which means a rise in intuition, a rise in eternal things, arise in consciousness in the field, and that will enter my Christ mind, which my ego, as Dr. K talks about, will surrender to the Christ mind so that they come in sync, because the ego is a marvelous reality. When it is surrendered to the Christ mind, that is how we live, move, and have our being in Christ. So when I surrender to that, I live in this realm, but not being of this realm, but I do not deny the embodiment, the beautiful incarnational reality. You're not waiting to go anywhere. You're not leaving to go anywhere. Life is here. Life is now. And whatever you are going through, it is still life. It is still life. So what happens is we are now, in my incarnation right now, I am in a dense, compact energy. In order to learn how to live, move, and have my being, to be in this world, but not of this world, I am not going to access things that are of a lower dense energy. I'm not going to live in fear. I'm not going to live in anxiety. And I know we do. I'm not talking such bliss here that we don't all struggle with these things from time to time, but you don't live there. You may pass through that reality as you unfold in light, increasing in light. There is no destination. You're just going to where you always are. It is unfolding within you. So as you learn and pass these things, you grow and you expand. So in this dense energy, in human form, you are still light and you are still sound. Do you know that? Do we know that? Do you know that when you go into a room, you change the atmosphere of the room? Do you know that you are light? And if you are subdued light due to all this earthly fear and all this earthly awareness that limits you and holds you down, do you know who you are? Do you have a keen revelation that the light in you, if it's held down and if it's put under a basket, is not shining in order to change? I think many of us underestimate who we are and the effect that we have upon people we meet and situations. We always hold ourselves back. We really don't know because we have never been taught. And I believe it's not just progressive Christianity or charismatic Christianity that's teaching this. I believe it is the quantum realm that is revealing this. God is this way of saying, if I can't reach you one way, I'm going to reach you another way, but I am going to reach you. And this reaching is just to unfold who you already are. So remember, we said in the classical world, information can be copied and deleted at will. That's why believing in what you see in the natural is fickle. It's very fickle because you see, it says, keep your mind on earthly things. And in the epistles, it says, you don't look at what is seen, for what is seen is temporary. You live in what is now, but you move and live and have your being based upon what can't be seen. Because in the classical world, quantum physicists believe information can be copied, it can be deleted, and there's a certain measure of control we can have over it. We'll talk about that at a later date. But in the quantum world, physicists believe the conservation of quantum energy. What's quantum energy? You in the field in you and God, God in you. That's embedded in you, folks. That can't be created or destroyed. God does not pull out of you what God has put in you. God is no respecter of persons. You came here full. You came here creative. You came here innovative. You came here abundant and extraordinary and brilliant, and we just forgot. So this energy that is turning around in us is not a script. It's not some taskmaster sitting over us telling us what to do and what not to do. What kind of father would that be? This father within me, this birther of the breath and of the life, according to the Aramaic, this father within me is leading in intimacy and the journey and everything I go through, walking me forward with what is embedded in me. Do you know what is embedded in you? Do you know who you are? Do you know what runs in the, what is this inner technology? I'm getting this picture right now. It's like a computer. Sometimes there's things running in the background. Sometimes you have all these tabs open and things are running in the background and they slow things down. So let's look at it this way. What is running in the background? Obliterating the reality of who you are by sending out false messages to an inner technology, convincing you are this when you are not, because you've never taken the time to really figure out who you are. Because if you sat in a receiving mode your whole life, you have lived through other person's revelation, you have lived through other person's acknowledgement, you have lived through other people's opinion of you, and I am right with you in that. It's time to break out and to find you, and the first person that needs release is you. So shut down all the tabs on your in your computer that's running to mess you up from hearing the essence of what forms the hardcore technology, which is Christ in you, the hope of glory. So each of us are embedded. We're already embedded in the spiral staircase, spiral learning, hearing things over and over, thinking about them. This is not a message that you're just going to come in one time and you're going to get everything it is and you're going to leave, because this is unfolding within you. So if you get one thing from what I'm saying, that's all you need for now. And that will form a movement in you, because it will bring out of you what is already embedded in you as far as creativity and insight. So one thing I want to add before I figure out a few more things. Do we believe in a creator or not? When I talk about God, when I talk about source, when Mo and I talk next week about how the black hole burst forth, the singularity and things were created, I love that word singularity. There are so many people on Facebook now tossing out these quantum terms, and eventually those quantum terms lead to this declaration, I am God. No, you're not. Even theoretical physicists, Max Planck said this. He was the founder of quantum physics, and he believed there was an intelligent mind and an intelligent creator of whom we are all whole. So these flippant people saying, I am God, it's a naive, almost ignorant understanding of not pushing further to see the awe and the wonder of this creator of which you are embedded in and part of in this beautiful God consciousness. No, I am not God, folks. I live and move and have my being in the God consciousness. I am as God in this world to people who don't know things. I am as that love. I am as that light, but I am not the creator and the sustainer of the universe. Let me make sure you understand that is where I'm flowing from. So physicists, they recognize a divine intelligent mind. And Max Planck said all matter originates and exists only by virtue of a force which brings the particle of an atom to vibration and holds this most minute solar system of the atom together. We must assume behind this force the existence of a conscious and intelligent mind. This mind is the matrix of all matter. So as physicists moved on in their understanding, they're now seeing an integral link between consciousness and the universe. Are we seeing the universe as distant from us, or are we part of it? And that leads to learning how to live in the world, but not of the world. You cannot and never will be able to control everything that happens to you. That is also quantum. Heisenberg's theory says some things just happen and you can't control them. There is always an element of uncertainty, but as long as we keep moving and we keep living and we keep having our being, we will have a full and abundant life in a rise of consciousness. Now, I want to talk about spiral light waves and how we learn. And this is how I have learned since I was a child, although nobody defined it for me. I never went into a situation trying to get point A, point B, point C. I was always the kid that was an enigma. I was flowing as a non-linear thinker. I was connecting the dots of certain things I saw. I was living in the paradox of things I didn't understand, and I would find a truth in all that. Despite anything I was going through, even though I was a math major, I was a science major, a leader, all those things, I was the type of person that believed in a spiral form of learning, that I couldn't take something and run with it like I totally understood it. There was a sense as I get older that we muse, we think, we wander around in that field of truth that we've appropriated, and we come to points where those things settle in us as us. The reason I can speak about quantum now is because for 3 or 4 years now, I've been reading extensive books, things I didn't understand. I joined that spiral staircase. I would start reading a book and I would be at the bottom of that staircase and I wouldn't understand a thing when I started reading it. But I would walk and I would go around and I would go around, and pretty soon I no longer was looking for knowledge. I had the knowledge and I still didn't understand it. People could tell me the universe is entangled. Really? But what does that mean for me? What does union mean? What does all this mean for me? And it was as I was flowing in a rising of light, which came from the quantum field, from God, through the Christ mind. As I was rising up in this light, this spiral learning, it didn't add itself as knowledge. It added itself as insight and foundationally formed the essence of my life. That is why I can speak of some things now without notes, because they are a part of me. You don't want to just verbalize knowledge. You want to get to the core of who you are, so that what you speak are words of spirit, they are words of light, and they are words of truth. So when we talk about light, we already told you access it. I can go on and on about it, but let's just say you have a basic understanding. God is breathing to form matter. He's breathing, God is breathing light. And in that light, it's not just light, it's sound. And as they fuse together, this topic is unbelievable if you ever start really looking, because I can't go there right now. It's just incredible. This light will form matter. It's a template that we see throughout all of creation. It's mathematically formed, it's geometrically formed, it's scientifically formed, because God is the intelligent mind of the whole universe. And so no one is like us, guys. You are not like anyone else. God is not into templates. He's not into robotic. He's not into just oneness and in the sense that you're like everybody else. We have this Christ mind, and this Christ mind, through spiral learning, as light increases, will increase our life in our energy signature. So what is spiral learning? It is not a linear gathering of knowledge. It's not that. It was easy to go into school, and when I was in university, it was easy to learn math and have the right answer, but rarely did you learn how to think. Rarely do you learn how to explore. It is a rare leader that will allow you to express everything on your journey, so that your journey is hand-tailored to you to form a stronger foundation within you. So I was always curious. I was always asking questions. So I learned by not giving the answer right away, but by looking at it and always wondering, what's the deeper meaning in this? This is where we've messed up with scripture, the literal interpretation of scripture. That is why Dr. Kay Fairchild is so phenomenal. For those of you who still want this reference, for those of you who just still find yourself needing that, I don't always need that, because the Spirit will reveal verses to me. I go look them up. I don't read my Bible every day. I don't. But if you do, well, more power to you. Now you have to start learning to look at it allegorically, not just literally, because allegory increases the light within you to expand. And when you expand, remember, you expand in your energy, making you more receptive and making you more empowered to live in this world without succumbing to the energies of this world. So with a spiral understanding, as you're like, say you look at a topic, okay, I told you, like, I look at the topic of quantum, I stand at the bottom of this spiral staircase and I want to know more. Facts alone won't cut it. I could learn all the facts, I could read all the books, but that doesn't mean that those things have embedded themselves within me. Knowledge locates you. Listen carefully. Knowledge will locate you in time, but revelation, it's a journey. Knowledge will locate you. At this time, I learned this. At this time, I learned that. And you can spout all the details. You can say all these things, but you have never taken the depth of all those facts or information and allowed God to weave them into your essence that is embedded within you to live a life of increased light. So I stood at the bottom of the staircase, and even with things like I and the Father are one. What is oneness, God? And I joined myself on this journey. and started asking questions and started seeing how this applied. And what that did for me is I didn't always have a definition from it, because we are a people in the Western world that we want to get it. We want to understand. Help me understand. I can't. If you don't journey in this yourself, if you do not take the responsibility to open a book, if you don't understand the words I say and you can't get a dictionary, then you are never going to receive anything from me. And that is okay. You can move on. But the reality is I'm calling out to the creative intuitives who are willing to start the journey, which some of you are already on, and just to keep increasing in light by walking through that staircase of non-linear thinking. You know what it says about Einstein? It said that Einstein, if I'm saying this accurately, received the theory of relativity, but he had no mathematical support for it. So what he did was he received the theory experientially, and then he went to search out what exactly it meant mathematically. I think there's a lesson for us to be learned. Do you know how many people are spouting out truths without experiencing them? And we're listening to them and we're taking their advice and we're learning from them, but we're learning nothing, because true authenticity only comes when I have walked through and I am experiencing everything I'm speaking. That is why I can learn from you and you can learn from me, because your path is different from mine. That is why when I interview Mo Thomas and I interview Kay Fairchild, I am looking to have a real creative energy that builds both of us up, that open up new portals of understanding that we both can walk through and birth forth new revelation and new insight. So spiral ascending, what that does is you start moving in the topic through thinking, through meditating, through walks in nature, and suddenly, little by little, you'll encounter synchronicities. God may reveal God through a billboard on a freeway. Ever been there? Or you'll start to connect the dots that you're seeing the same thing, you're seeing patterns. Ever been there? Where you start seeing patterns in your life, and those patterns reveal an ascent on this spiral staircase, because you're not going to a book to learn it. You're not learning through someone else's, and there's nothing wrong with that as long as you take that knowledge and you make it your own. Because you can't walk in the revelation of what someone else was given until it is appropriated in your system, in your being. So this spiral understanding, it's non-linear thinking. Now we need both, okay? My husband was a very linear thinker, but he was also the most creative person I know, just like me. He had this ability as a project manager to go in and to look at what needed to be done, but then to see by asking God, by moving in an increase in light, he looked at insights and intuitions on how to complete the project. That is why he was over $1 million projects built. He was on the staff of building the airport in Abu Dhabi, worked on the airport in Fort Worth, went to Atlanta. That's why he traveled so much, because he was called in because of the insightful way that he looked at things. So for those of you who are administrators and linear thinkers, there is a way to fuse this in your life. There's nothing wrong with linear thinking. We need both, because if you're only on, listen carefully, if you're only on this spiral staircase, always moving in this realm, what are you doing in your life on a daily basis? Those ideas that you're getting, that insight you're getting has got to be implemented, whether that is in a business, whether that's a ministry, whether that's in how to raise your family. Insights, moving on the spiral staircase of understanding, the increase of light will always provide movement and momentum in your life. That is what it's doing right now. That is why I have such a passion. I thought I was going to be teaching about creative expression one way, but now it's coming this way. So I just actually love the fact that people are moving. Again, I'm calling out to the creative intuitives to walk in this knowledge and to birth something. When you receive ideas from the Christ mind, remember, Dr. K always says that it's deposited in the left side. This is the womb. This is the feminine and masculine energy. What are you holding in your womb right now that has been male or female? Because we all have masculine and feminine energy. What's in your womb that's waiting to be created, that's waiting to be birthed? Is it still sitting there because you just don't want to step out, because you're still buying into an energy frequency that is less than light? So we need both. Ego navigates within the insights it is given from the Christ mind, and it provides a womb in which to birth that which is formed in you, into the earth. And ego is your friend of expression. For how else do you express your individuated consciousness in this earth realm without an ego? How do you express your emotions? How do you express your creativity? Ain't nothing wrong with crying or getting angry or being joyful. That is all who you are. So you are not all spirit energy, but yet you are incarnated into a body with emotions. And you are living in this moment of space-time. You are living in this moment, and the glory of living in this moment as we are being exposed to incredible insights and revelation on how to navigate life in ways that we have never known before. Listen to Greg Braden, listen to Joe Dispenza. They're on a totally different wavelength, not my wavelength, but I listen to them. The essence of all these new techniques to prevent yourself from dis-ease, how we have inner technologies that will birth new ideas in us and will sustain us, because in a rise in consciousness, it flows within us in a fully realized humanity. We are actually in that movement, where I believe the outflow of that will be, we will look the part, we will shine, we will be bright, even in the natural realm. A few more things. This spiral learning, it could have multiple starting points, line upon line. You were taught to take notes, 10 points, how to appropriate that. But you see, as we learn to think along this spiral path, there's many staircases we're standing under, where some were ascending, some were just learning. This is called life. So there's many starting points of things we're learning, things we're moving in, things that are just now being breathed into us in this very second. So it is a journey of creativity and movement that is all encompassing of this energy that we move in. We're not pinpointing one thing in which we are. We are multidimensional, and it is not so much who we are in our identity. I am this. I am an abundance of things because I am multidimensional and my energy is expansive, and I am multi-ways that I am creative. I am not separated or fragmented. I am creative in how I go to the dog park and listen to people. I am creative in how I get up in the morning and make breakfast. The energy flows in and through me wherever I am, and I influence wherever I am and whoever I am with. So a linear understanding, how we have to come to terms that this has kept us back. When you think linearly, it is a straight line between 2 points. You can't think outside of the parameters, and you cannot relate to paradox. You go crazy if something doesn't understand, and that's where control comes in, that's where anger comes in, and when you do that, you suppress consciousness. Now, what happens when you suppress consciousness? You're going to dim the light. You want to lighten up? Just release everything and surrender. I'm not talking about walking in a woo-woo blissful state. I am talking about walking in the full realization of your incarnation in time, accessing the God realm, accessing how Jesus lived, and applying that and moving in that life of abundance as he talked about. So it is this difference that we have to unite the two of them. And I do think Dr. K speaks about this brilliantly. It's a unity of both of them. It's not an either or, it's a unity. And it's what that produces is an embodiment of you shining. You shine when you realize this. So the leaders that we are seeing rise up right now, I'm convinced of this. Good leaders that are rising up right now are learning how to move in between both realms with ease. They are learning, if you could say, they are learning to toggle back and forth between right and left brain, to grow, to ascend in light by submitting the ego to the Christ mind. So there is a oneness reality in us that births new ideas that the world has not even seen. You should not be at all concerned with what's going on. And there's so much crap going on right now. I'm not into speaking about that, but I am aware. I'm aware what's going on in politics. I'm watching, I'm listening, I'm discerning. And if I bought into that, my energy would be brought so low. But good leaders, leaders of light, leaders that are brilliant and expecting people that listen to them to be brilliant, not talking to them like they're babies who don't understand everything, not talking to people as if I can't trust you to walk on your path of light. And hey, I'm here if you want to ask a question. If I don't have the answer, I'm going to tell you I don't have the answer. If I have the answer, I'm going to give you the answer. Why? To help you move forward in a greater understanding. So leaders are learning the importance of both, not so spiritual that, remember, we heard that statement. Who's heard that statement? You're so spiritual, you're no earthly good. Oh my God, I lived with that my whole life. People would tell me constantly, it doesn't take all that, Deborah. Well, yes, it does. It does take all that. It does take being spiritual and creative within my own ego at the same time. And I believe them and I toned it down, and I can't tone it down. So this new style of learning, I want to end with this. The student, which is you, which is me, will learn more about a subject each time the topic is reviewed or encountered. Repetition is good. Repetition is good. Every time we go around, it increases, it expands. This expansion of knowledge that each of us are embarking on brings us a depth of understanding, not a shallow spouting forth of ideas that we mimic or copy, but insights in light that transform our individual lives as well as the lives of others, the atmosphere of locations and everything else. So I've got a minute. What else to say? What else to say? I want to encourage those of you who have been told you're not that smart. I want to encourage those of you who have been wallflowers blending in. Let me tell you a story, and then I'll leave you with that. I'm going to tell this story when Mo talks next week, because I read something in his book that was really good. When I was in high school, I suffered from such a deep root of rejection, but inside I knew ever since I was a child that I was really brilliant. I knew it, but it never came out because I would either self-sabotage myself through rejection or any kind of insecurity. And I remember I was in a senior English class, but I was a junior because they always moved me up in classes. Yeah, go figure, right? And we had this spelling bee. The teacher thought one day, I'm going to give you all these harder words, line up, we're going to spell. Well, I knew that that was me. I'm really good at it. I'm really good with words. But when it came time to the point that there was just me and two other people, I intentionally lost. Why did I do that? Because I didn't want to be seen. I just didn't want to be seen. Rather than moving out in anger, I hid back. So I was walking down the halls. I was a junior in school, and the counselor grabbed me and said to me, you have enough credits to graduate. You're ready. You want to go? I'm like, I'm ready. So I graduated early, went to university. But so many times in my life, I self-sabotaged my own brilliance. And I am determined and intentional that you will not do that in yours. That is why here I go again, only this time it's real. The Zoom classes that I'm developing, and I'm going to have a core group of people meeting in them to form a community. I'm going to challenge you to be you. I don't hold anything back when I see something in a person. All those years I self-sabotaged my purpose because I knew I was brilliant. I knew and dumbed down who I thought I was inside, or got angry or drank a lot. Y'all don't know this about me. I could put them down. All that is coming out now in such a different way for such a time as this. So I believe in you. If you regularly listen to this, I believe in you. I love you. And you are brilliant. It's as simple as that. Thank you guys for watching. Next Thursday, 3 o'clock, right here. Sign up for the notifications. Mo and I are going to have a great conversation. And I'll post this over the next week, things we talked about. Thank you guys for watching.